Hey guys, good morning. It's Regina with Maximum Off Grid, and today we are talking about things to look for when buying off-grid property. And man, is it gorgeous out. It is a beautiful spring day here in southern Arizona. It's about mid-70s right now, 9 a.m., so I'm just really enjoying this weather. We've been pretty hot lately, so hopefully we'll cool down a little bit, but that heat helps bring in the rain, so hopefully my camera doesn't overheat today. So let's just get right into it. I do think that this topic deserves a lot more attention than what I can give to this video, so I'll probably do a more expanded video on it. But for now, we'll just touch base on some points that I've learned while living off-grid and things I've learned about my property that I wish I would have thought of first before buying. So the first thing I want to talk about is how level is your ground. So one of the big draws to the property I'm on now is that it is so freaking flat. Like, I don't even have to really level anything before I build on it. It's practically level. There is a slight slope into the wash, which is good, so I still get good enough drainage for when it does rain. But if you're buying a property on a hillside, on a slope, you got to think about your buildings. You're gonna have to level and grade all of your ground before you can build anything. That may not be a big issue for you if you have a tractor, if you have equipment, if you're hiring others to do the work. But for someone who's kind of on a low budget and doesn't have equipment, you'll want something really flat. So as you can see, I'm as flat can be. So that's my first point. The second point I'd like to make is your soil quality and type of soil you have. So in this particular spot, I'm located, I'll see if you can kind of see this dip here. There's a wash right here. And what's happened is all of this sediment was deposited. It's actually just straight up dirt. It's a very sticky dirt when it gets wet, and it's very compact, which is nice because it doesn't get super muddy when it rains. It actually stays compact. But that's unusual for Arizona because a lot of times in Arizona, you get really, really rocky ground. So if you're doing anything like fencing, putting in posts, clearing out an area for a foundation or ditching, and you are battling with rocks, that totally stinks. So another reason you want to consider soil type is if you're going to be growing a garden. How much amending are you going to have to do to the garden? Are you going to have raised beds? Are you going to plant in ground? If you have a rocky, craggy soil, that's not very much fun to deal with. So soil type is super important. It also accounts for drainage, for when it rains. It accounts for, the mud factor. Are you going to be just super swamped out in mud? Are you boggy? There is so much and that's something I didn't really consider before buying this property, was the soil type. And it is super duper ultra important. So those are like the two leading factors. I know that a lot of people like to talk about water, and obviously that's one of the hugest factors. But you can usually find a water depot or some place to haul water onto your property while you get that component figured out. So for me, I bought the adjacent property next door, and it had a well already installed on it. And the water table here is super high. It's 60 feet to hit water. So another little precious gem on my property. But if you're in a water pinch, just haul your water for a while. It's not terrible. It's not the best. You might also have a water delivery service in your area too. And then you don't even have to worry about hauling your own water. So there's options if you don't have access to, you know, a good water source on your property. So another thing I want to talk about is your climate. Yes, down here in Arizona, although we do get below freezing, it's usually 60 to 70 degrees during the day during the winter, and then maybe 20 to 30 at night. This has allowed me to really explore alternative building materials and projects that I couldn't do somewhere like in Montana. There's no way I could live like I live up north in Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota. You just have to have way more infrastructure. Things freeze. You could freeze solid. So your shelter has to be more robust. Out here, I'm literally living in a very small, tiny house that's not even insulated right now, and I do pretty good over the winter. As far as the summer goes, you know, there's that heat factor, and I'm going to be battling that here soon. So I'm going to be insulating my shed, and hopefully I won't get too hot. But you definitely got to think about your climate. Is it a wet climate? Is it a humid climate? How will the climate affect your building materials? My main building material is going to be earth bags, basically sandbags, and that works really well in a desert climate. It does not work well in a humid climate where it's constantly getting damp, and it doesn't work in a freezing climate very well because the bags will expand and contract. So choose your climate carefully. Another thing I'd like to talk about are natural disasters. Okay, so does your region experience a lot of fires, flooding, wind, tornadoes, hail? That's the big one lately. So many places get pummeled with hail. I mean, I don't even know what I'd do if I had hail damage here. I'd lose my solar panels, I'd lose my vehicle, I would lose so much. So, you know, taking out a little insurance policy on your off-grid homestead is smart. And I'm fortunate enough to have an insurance guy that really works with me in my alternative building. So that's pretty cool. But what is the likelihood of your stuff getting destroyed from a natural disaster? I think flooding is a huge one. I mean, that just wipes out everything. And you have to have a special insurance to cover flood damage. So I would be very wary of building in an area that could be prone to flooding. For me, tornadoes freak me the hell out. So I'd never build anywhere. I'd never settle anywhere that there's a bunch of tornadoes. Fires, you know, if you're smart and keep your property clean and have fire breaks, you could probably manage in a fire-prone area. Hail, I think, is probably one of the worst ones, though. So that's another big deal. Are there disasters in your area? How disaster-prone is the area? So a big one is permitting, and how anal is the county or city you are going to settle in. Now, I got extremely fortunate with this property because I am outside of city limits, and I highly recommend when you are looking for your off-grid property to settle outside city limits. And there are some cities, they push their city limits 10, 15, 20 miles out for expansion. So you might have to look if you want to be kind of close to a town, but far enough out that you can enjoy the off-grid life. You might have to look kind of hard to find something where you're not within city limits. Once you get in those city limits, you are exposed to whatever the heck they want to do to you. I'm in the county where so far, I mean, I have been completely under the radar. No one even knows I exist out here, which is super cool. And a special point I want to bring up is permitting, and I am in Cochise County. There is an off-grid building permit available for those that have over 3 acres. I am working on getting that permit as we speak. And I don't even really want to permit. I don't really believe in permitting. I think it's just a cash grab, but I could get on board with the off-grid building permit. So that will allow me to build anything I freaking want on my property without any asshole coming on here telling me what to do. So there might be an off-grid building permit available in your county that you're looking at. So check into that. Make sure you're not going to get stuck in rigid building codes and jerks snooping around trying to bust you. Because I heard of those situations happening to friends of mine where, the guy decided to sell his house or his property up the street. So now we've got jerk inspectors coming around and making our lives miserable, telling us, oh, this isn't to code. Oh, you don't have this permitted, etc., etc. That's a big deal when you're off-grid. Okay, so the final point I want to make, and this is a little counterintuitive to off-grid living, is do you have access to any utilities? And I don't know, people get so weird about, oh, you're on this, you're not off-grid. Oh, you're on that, you're not off-grid. It's like, screw you. This is my life. And if I choose to be on shore power, because I have access to a power pole, I am still technically off-grid. And who cares if I am or not? Like, I'm going to live my life. So my situation is, when I first bought this property, I had access to no shore power, and I was solely off of solar energy, and it was a really big pain in the butt, and my solar system broke down. It's actually broke down right now. It got broke down, we fixed it, worked again, broke down again. And with the acquisition of the second property, I acquired a power pole, which was super exciting, and a well. And you know what, guys? I'm on shore power. And I am so thankful to have that shore power because my solar system keeps giving me problems. So maybe you have found a property where it has a municipal system like power, access to sewer, access to municipal water. Really think about it. It's a big freaking deal to go off grid and create your own utilities. So if you are even on one municipal utility, even if it's temporary, more power to you. Don't feel the need to be like, oh, I need to be badass 100% off grid all the time if I'm going to live this lifestyle. No, it's really difficult, guys. So, and there's a lot more, I could go on about in this niche, but that should get you thinking a little bit if you're looking into buying property. I think Arizona, I'm pretty happy with the settling here, and the purchase of my property here. So you might want to look into Arizona. You might want to look into Cochise County. It's a very off-grid friendly county. There's a lot of property available for a reasonable price. Pretty good water table here. And there's just so many places. So, weigh your checks and balances, your pros and cons. You're never going to find the perfect property. That's definitely one thing I've learned. It's never going to happen. So it's more about finding the property that you would be happy with and adjusting to obstacles however you need to. If that means you need to haul water for 6 months to a year, if that means you need to hook up to shore power, if you have to grade to build, you just have to make it work because you're never going to find the perfect piece. So that's it for me today, guys. Just so you know, I do have a little Patreon going on. And I appreciate all of you that are supporting my endeavors as a content creator. I also have an amazing website, MaximumOffGrid.com, that has over 150,000 words of how to go off-grid. I mean, I got everything. And my water system section is extremely robust. So if you need help with that, I suggest heading over there. And today I am signing out. Have a wonderful day.